thank you so much for allowing me to play some role in serving you in this past year. And this video is a gift for you that hopefully will help you live a better life. As you know, that's my mission, and this is what I would consider a resolution you would want to keep. And so I call this a gift of recreational or recreational development. So it's a little concept that stirred around in my brain a little, and I thought I would share it with you in case it is of value for you as you're coming into the new year and thinking about your goals and your plans, and how to make changes and to do better. And so it is a three circles concept, but it's built around the concept of the quadrants and the circle of concern and the circle of influence and your leisure time. And so it's an opportunity to do something you like to do and make it something that is developmental at the same time. So let me walk you through it a little bit, and hopefully it'll serve you in what you do going forward in the new year. So as maybe you've seen me do before, these two circles represent our life in a capacity, right? This circle is the circle of concern, all right? So the circle of concern is everything in the world that you could be concerned about. And obviously in the past few years, there's been a lot more than usual, or it certainly felt that way. And there's always going to be that, right? There's always going to be things you can't do anything about. And so I call that the reactive circle, because when you're over in there and you're focused on things you can't do anything about, it doesn't feel very good. And we react to that, and then we don't typically react to it in the great ways. Over here is the circle of influence. And the circle of influence are the things that you can control. And so the way this maps out is this circle actually is inside of this circle. And to the degree that we can grow this circle of influence to be larger and larger in our life, and this is the circle we can affect, the things that we can actually do something about, the things that we can have some measure of control in, it reduces the impact of the circle of concern. And so that is the nature of this three circles living, the entire mentality of three circles living, and everything that I teach in developing yourself and being proactive in what you learn in business is about the circle of influence, because I know that the greater you make this, the more of a focus, which is the proactive circle that you make this in your life, the less the circle of concern bothers you. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, it's there, but the less it influences you and bothers you. So I also teach the quadrants, which some of you have seen and been through deep exercise. I'm going to give you a little concept of the quadrants in this circle. Okay, so if we put the quadrants, because that is things that you can do something about, inside of the circle of influence, it's still going to break down into 4 quadrants. So we'll make this very simple. These quadrants, which attach to a priorities quadrant, are essentially, they're around the concept of things that are important and things that are urgent. As it relates to this, quadrant 1 would be things that are important and urgent, sort of crisis. Quadrant 2 is things that are important but not urgent yet. That's a good thing to think about. Quadrant 3 are things that are not important but urgent, and quadrant 4 are things that are not important and not urgent. And so if you think about it, when we are operating in any one of these quadrants, it says something about what's going on in our life. And so for this conversation, think of it this way. If you are operating in quadrant 4, then you are completely out of control, right? Because you're doing things that are not important and not urgent. If that's what you're doing in your life, that's not going to be good. If you're in quadrant 3, then you are letting someone else have control. You have given over control because you're dealing with things that aren't important to you, but they appear to be urgent, which means someone else is driving you around. Quadrant 1 would be trying to get control, because quadrant 1, if you're operating in areas where things are urgent and they're important, wow, that'll shred you over time, right? That is crisis management. And so quadrant 2 is where you really want to be, and that is where you're in control. It's proactive. You're doing things that are important, but they're not urgent, which means they're under control. And that is the point of what this little tip that I'm going to share with you about recreational development. See, quadrant 2, this is the quadrant that is the key to three circles living, right? just as a reminder, health is the first circle, relationships is the second, and then we can call career, money, however you want to do it, is the third, and that is a particular order. But the more you are operating in your life in quadrant 2, the better you are doing everywhere. All right, so here is the hack, so to speak. It relates to quadrant 2 and to recreation or leisure. So this tip, if you think it works for you, if it's a value for you, it'll help you to feel good, it'll help you to do better, and it'll help you to become better all at once while doing things you actually like to do. That's why this is kind of a resolution that you'll want to keep, as opposed to a lot of the resolutions that we make, which are gone, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks into the year. So it was C.K. Brightbill. I don't really know who this guy is, but I read this quote in a pretty intense book that I've been reading. He said, the future will belong not only to the educated man, and educated in my context is evolved and developed. Doesn't mean schooling. The future will belong to the educated man, not to the educated man, but the man who is educated to use his leisure time wisely. And the leisure, right, was what I'm talking about here. That is recreation, all right? Recreational part of your leisure time. So think about this separate from exercise. Again, if you spend time with me, or you know people who spend time with me, then you know that how important I believe the health circle is, right? It's in everything that there is. So your exercise or what you do to take care of your health is important. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about things that are likely active, but more in your leisure time, which is important too. At quadrant 2, you have to have leisure, you have to have relaxation, you have to have recharge. So I want you to think about, what do you like to do that's active for leisure? Maybe you like to hike, or you like to walk, or you walk your dogs, or you ride a bike, or maybe you surf, I don't know. Whatever it is that you like to do, think about what that is, and then think about what keeps you from doing it more. What keeps you from doing it, let's say, 3 or 4 times a week? If you really were to be honest, right, about it, you would go, well, it's time. I don't feel like I have the time. Or, and this is worse, because we really do know that time is just a function of choices. Certainly there are things that I teach about how to structure time and how to prioritize time and how to do it in a way that makes you feel like you have more time. But time is generally an issue, but it's based around choices. But the other one is a little bigger, and that's guilt, right? The guilt thing, that when you're doing this, it's what's running through, right? The thing running through your head is, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. No, actually no. You should be doing the thing you're doing because it's important. And this is why I want to give you this, because it will really help you think about it in a different way. And whatever the mindset, whenever I'm teaching anything, I teach mindset first, because if you don't have the mindset of why something matters, then the rest isn't going to make any difference anyway. So the example I'll use for you is fishing. Anybody who knows me knows I love to fish. And so fishing is obviously a recreational activity. So it's quadrant 2 because it is a relaxing, recharging activity. Now, if I'm doing fishing to avoid things that are important that I should be attending to, now I've turned fishing into a quadrant 4 activity. But let's assume we're not operating that way. We're operating in the quadrant 2 as much as possible, which is how you want to live your life. Here's the key. It's not just relaxing and recharging, right? Which is important, right? Because you need that. Everybody needs that. But it's so many other things that are involved. So example, when I'm fishing, here's some of the things. First of all, it's fun. And fun is good because that helps your body emit the right chemicals that make you feel good, and feeling good matters. It's also thinking time, right? I spend a lot of time thinking through things, processing things that I'm working out, right? There's also the excitement, right? Which is adrenaline swings that are on purpose, sort of like riding a roller coaster when you go fishing. Some people are like, fishing, roller coasters? Believe me, for a fisherman, yes, that's true. But then there's things like strategy, or obviously stress release, or problem solving, or decision making. And a big one for me is creativity. So I use my fishing time as creative time. I actually have used my fishing time to bolster my career, because I come up with all kinds of things that I utilize in my work through fishing. I've come up with marketing campaigns that have been incredibly successful. I've come up with training practices that have been very successful while I'm fishing, because I'm capturing ideas, I'm thinking, I'm free flowing, I'm away from all the other things of the world, which is an important thing, right? So when you're doing this activity, don't be dialed into your phone, connected with all these other people, because then you're not actually there, right? If you're doing that, if you're on your phone while you're doing this activity, you're not actually in there. You're missing all this stuff that I'm talking about. And then critical thinking. So I just gave you like 9 or 10 things that fishing does that are all quadrant 2 things. All of those things are about sharpening the saw, about physical health, about, not to mention it's active, right? They're about the mental health, developmental health, attitude building. Also, it trickles into relationship, because obviously when you feel better about yourself and when you've de-stressed, you're going to show up better in relationships. These things have all helped me in my career. They all help me with my purpose, right? All of that stuff from one single activity that I could easily say, oh, I don't have time to go fishing. Now you see, that's the mindset part. Whatever this is for you. Right? I also use kayaking like this, and I use my dog walks sometimes like this. A couple times a week, I'll take my dogs for like an hour and a half or 2-hour walk where there's no people. Right, and because I live on a river, I take them down the river on the beaches, and I'm doing the same thing, playing with them, letting them run, letting them have a good time, being in nature, letting my ideas flow, and I take a phone not to communicate, to capture ideas. So I do that while I'm doing this stuff. So whatever it is for you, it's paramount. You don't want to look at it like it's something that you don't have time to do or you shouldn't be doing. You flip the script on that to understand there's very few things that you could be doing that would be more valuable to you and the people you love and to the people you're serving in your business than this kind of thing, this recreational development or recreational development. This might sound like a crazy idea to you, but it works incredibly well. And so I'm sharing this with you as a little gift as you're starting to plan in your new year and think about what you want to accomplish. First thing you got to plan in your life is taking care of you. Because if you don't take care of you, it doesn't matter how many golden eggs you can lay, sooner or later there won't be any more. And you have to address that and be proactive about filling your own cup up on a consistent basis. And this is a fun way that you can do it and end up doing more of some of the things that you love. So I would suggest that you plan it in like 3 times a week, more if you can, but 3 times a week. What is that going to be? 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week? So as you can see, you start carving it up that way. It affects every corner of your life, can help you be better in everything that you do. So I hope you have a wonderful Christmas season. I look forward to serving you in the new year. And Happy New Year too. Bye-bye.